We've seen a few guys on the injury report over the last few weeks. Saw everyone mostly in training earlier this week, but no Johnny. Is Johnny? How's Johnny? And will we see most of those guys in the mix?
I mean, I think everybody's getting better. That's probably the best way to say it. They're getting better. I think the time between the games has helped that a little bit. I wouldn't say that we're fully there, but we're better. We're for sure better than we were.
This group.
I mean, not having to play a bunch of those guys in the game there was a big help.
Curious, obviously, the result kind of turns it in this next match. The way St. Louis plays, they're going to need to come out, right? They have to get the win in this one. Does that kind of play into the hands of kind of the way you guys approached that first match in their place?
No, I mean, look, there's really nothing to talk about the game before. It really just isn't. The only thing I can say is that I think they also came out and, I mean, it's who they are. They come out. They play a very aggressive, high pressing style. They do that. Everybody knows it. It's nothing new. So I fully expect them to do the same thing here. It's going to be a battle. That's all I can say. That the game's going to be an absolute battle for sure because they have a really, really good team, and obviously they want to get the win, and so do we. So it's going to be an absolute battle between both teams.
I think we're going to talk to Nemanja a little bit later. Can you just talk about what he's brought to the team? He's not a guy that always gets a lot of attention, but that role doesn't always.
Yeah, that's what you said there at the end is probably very accurate. Most of the time, that position just doesn't get a lot of notoriety. You do a lot of work for everyone around the field. You cover for everybody. But that's what he's done. I think he's a good ball winner. He's got good positioning, very competitive, and at the same time he has a good understanding of how not only we want to play but just the game. He's got a good understanding of the game, reads it well, but is a good distributor of the ball. So he's been the fact that he's had some consistency here towards the end of the season has been a big help to continuity within the group.
I know he had some injury troubles throughout the season. Is he finally to where you want him to be?
I think so. I mean, there's not much I can do about it if he wasn't at this point, right? I would say that it's kind of the same for I would say for most players, and that is a season itself is very difficult. I believe an MLS season is even more difficult because the off-season training program is so important. And if and this is why it's difficult for a lot of foreign players when they come into our league, and that is that if you don't have the experience of doing and spending time yourself off season, where a lot of guys come in that don't because they have very little time off in between their seasons, so they don't really get out of shape all that much, and then the preseason is what gets them back into shape. For guys like him, it's difficult because they haven't really played in a league like that. So he didn't really have the offseason that maybe he should have. And I think that's one of the reasons for the injuries. But I think what happens to a lot of guys too as well is if you can get through, the first half of the season and then they can start to build something regarding their fitness and then just also continuity. Because I think, being out on the field every day, it builds something. Like when you're there all the time, when you're there, you build something also just from a physical perspective, then also mental. And mental is saying to yourself, okay, I can get through this, I can do it. And now you're not worrying about any of that physical or mental, and you're just focusing on your game. And I think that's the place that he's in now. He's had the ability to start focusing on his game.
And then I think we'll also talk to Roger in a little bit. How good is it to have a veteran like him to be able to bring him off the bench?
Again, there was a reason why those guys are here, guys like him and Zeus, and that is because, it's one is obviously they've been great stewards of the club, but also, I mean, they still have a lot to offer, and they have a lot to offer in these moments when experience. I remember when we played in our first game that we won this year in Seattle, I brought Zeus and Roger on for the last 20 minutes. I can't remember exactly, but the last 20, 30 minutes to close the game out. and those two guys did a fantastic job. And so those kind of situations is what we those guys are here for. And we're going to keep trying to use that as much as we can and where we can.
Peter, every sport's different when it comes to facing a team back-to-back, but what are the unique challenges in soccer of facing a team back-to-back?
Yeah, it's I think, I can't speak for other sports because I don't coach nor really ever played for a very short period of time other sports, but than soccer. I think where the challenge is that I don't really think there's much both teams are going to do differently. I think what it comes down to is maintaining your effort in the game, knowing that every roll of the ball is going to be important. I think that's where it is personally. It's hard to because the other thing is our game is so there's so much physicality to it in that your conditioning and for 90 minutes and all that stuff. I mean that plays a big part in it. And so I really think it's more about you trying to get rested, prepared, recharged, and then you're ready to perform again. I think it gets down to that more than anything else.
And, 3 of your goals come from outside the 18 from the last game, but I'm sure you want to do things where you're like, because I know you said before in the past, like you can't rely on that. What is it about this game that makes you know that the team's not going to feel too comfortable, if you will, settling for those shots and trying to work in your offensive system?
Well, I think first of all that in the last game we were very opportunistic. I think that, again, it would be very hard for me to – there's one thing to do little nuances to what you do. There's another thing to completely change what you do. That's very hard to do. I would say that in a lot of situations it's very, very difficult to get that accomplished. So, like I said, I think it comes down to more like your habits are already kind of ingrained in you. It's whether or not you can implement some of the nuances that you may put into the game. And I think we did that in the last game. But the last game's over with, right? That means absolutely zero at this point. Now it's this next game that we're focused on. And we have to get back to, thinking about what we prepared for and then getting ready to execute when the weekend comes.
Peter over here. How much do you allow the players to take risks in these kind of games? Like make an extra play, make a dribble on defense, those kind of things. How much do you allow them?
Well, I'd like to say that I have a lot of control over the guys, but once the game starts, it's on them. They're playing based off of how we've prepared. They're playing based off of their instincts. So they have a lot of freedom to do a lot of different things. I always say that, look, if you run into the goal, right, and let's say you have a guy next to you and it's just the two of you and there's the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper comes out at you and you can easily pass to the guy and he can just hit it into the open net. That's great. But if you choose not to do that and you want to dribble around them and everything, you just better make sure you score. Because I'll be on the sideline clapping. It's just, pick the right decisions in the game is really what's most important for me. And I think you also have to take into consideration that there are guys on the team that are what I would call, they have the ability at times to change the game themselves. And so they have to be afforded that response or that flexibility when the opportunity comes.
We do have one question that was submitted via Zoom. John Lupa with Vavel. John, your line is open. John, we're not able to hear you.
Did you have another question? Or no, I thought you were going to say something. Go ahead. You can.
Thad, do you have a question?
Yeah, I think he does.
Perfect. We'll see if John can get his audio figured out.
He seemed like he did.
I was trying to work one out, but just kind of going back to Nemanja for a second, how much is what he's been able to do has been part of that success for the last 2/3 of the season? Where
I wouldn't put it on one guy. I'd say that, look, I think it's more of the group coming together. I don't want to. I think it's a very careful line here. We're playing the best team for sure in the West. They proved that over the season. They have been very, very good. We realize that. They were very good when we played them a week ago. We're playing a really tough team, and we need Nemanja. We need all of our guys. All of our guys. They all have to be ready for what it's going to be. It's going to be a really, really tough match. We realize that, and we know who we're playing against. We're playing against the best team. So we have to be on our A game. I don't know if they have to be. That's the difference. And so I'm hoping that we can keep that kind of concentration for this game, as well as him and all the other guys.